We do, as I've mentioned earlier, we have a very experienced teacher trainer, and he's going to talk to you something that's very similar with Miss Barbara as well about impactful and sustainable teacher development. And this man, he has single-handedly trained hundreds of teachers to obtain the CELTA qualification, and we are really very honored to have him right now to speak with us about continuous professional development for teachers. So please help me to welcome Mr. Robert Wood, a CELTA lead trainer.
Hi, everyone. Hi, how many of you do we have? A lot, I think. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, as Jason was just saying, I've been teacher trainer now. I've been a teacher for over 30 years and a teacher trainer for most of that time. And nearly all of that time working on CELTA courses in various countries. And I've worked on, is it 3 or 4 for GPEX now? In fact, I'm working on one right now. I don't know what you know about the CELTA. I'll just briefly say what it is before getting down to the main business. It's an introductory course for training, and it's for teaching adults. Although having said that, many of the things that candidates learn on the CELTA are transferable, because many principles, I'm sure you know, are similar, whatever age learners you're teaching. So moving on then, let's this. So looking at continued professional development, or CPD, okay, let's first look at what it is, what we mean by that. So firstly, it means after whatever course you took before or when you became a teacher. Like the CELTA, as I just said, that's an introductory course for teaching adults, or it could be a university qualification, whatever it was. And continued development, as it says here, it is lifelong. You never stop learning. And I certainly haven't stopped learning in all that time. However, there are things that help you learn. There are things that you need to do to keep learning. It doesn't just happen. And if you don't do some of those things, this is the result. So every year with no development at all, just doing the same thing, you can't say you have 30 years experience after 30 years, because not really. It's just repeated everything. It's the same as 1 year's experience. And I've seen this, and it's not unusual, unfortunately. People that don't do anything, that aren't interested sometimes in their own development. It's a job they get paid to do, that's it. And I've seen others who have developed very quickly and very well. So I think this is something that we need to be clear about, that experience doesn't equal ability. Very far from it, very far. I'm sure some of you have encountered people who are very experienced in doing a job many, many years. And this could be any job, not necessarily teaching. And they're hopeless. they don't really know what they're doing. They don't care about what they're doing. And others who are quite new, who are really good and only going to become better. So it's quite a key, I think, continued professional development towards that. Okay, so here I am promoting continued professional development. Let's look at why. Why is it important? Well, firstly, it makes the job more interesting for you. And partly through that, it helps you become a better teacher than you would have been without it. And that passes down to your learners. It helps them learn better because you're teaching them better. And that's not me, not just me saying that. Research has been done into this, quite a bit of research that confirms that it does indeed lead to better learning. Continuous professional development helps us understand our learners better in more depth, understands their needs, understands their lives, their environments. And this deeper understanding that helps us know what to do to adjust our teaching, to change our teaching, so that it does enable us to help our learners meet their needs because we know what their needs are. It might provide this, might do. Being a better teacher, others may notice that. So, yeah. And often there are promotional possibilities like directors of studies, teacher trainer, materials writing, all sorts of things. And I said maybe about promotion possibilities, but I'm not saying maybe about job satisfaction, and no doubt about it, that it will help with job satisfaction. So a lot of reasons why continued professional development is a good thing. Okay. Now let's look at how professional development has changed over the years. And I'm going to divide it up very simply into two: before the internet and since. So what did we do before then? Seems a long time ago now. Well, the main things were reading books, reading methodology books, and all sorts of other books. For example, books about skills, about listening and reading and writing, speaking, books about pronunciation, about grammar, etc. And conferences, going to conferences, maybe presenting conferences. Whereas now, so much is online. Huge influence online, which we'll look at in a minute, as a means towards development. Okay. Let's look then at now. As I said, so let's see what. Loads of stuff on the internet. And it's at your fingertips or at Google. And if you just Google in anything to do with teaching, you'll get hundreds or thousands of hits. Just try kindergarten teaching and see how many hits you get. Okay, let's have a look at some examples then. Right, well, there's 3 internet examples for a start. And you might want to take a screenshot of them. Right, the first one is the British Council. And that one alone would be enough to keep you busy for some time. There are all sorts of areas that it gets into of teaching and learning. It's a very comprehensive site and it's free. Second one is IH World. IH stands for International House. Very large organization. I'm trying to think, is it in Malaysia? I'm not sure. I know it used to be. And Hong Kong, I'm not sure. They are worldwide international house. And again, there's a lot on their website to do with teaching and training. And the third one is a site, CELTA Training. It is a site hosted by a lady called Joga Conga, who is a well-known CELTA trainer, assessor, and materials writer. And there are loads of videos, loads of them. Some of her stuff you have to pay for, but a lot of it is free as well. Well worth a look. Okay. So there's just 3 examples of websites that are really, really useful. Okay. There's another one, LinkedIn. I expect some of you are on it. It's a kind of professional version of Facebook, if you like. A site for professionals to be in contact with each other. You can find all sorts of articles, references to blogs, things like that on it. You can even find jobs on it, as I have done. Talking of which, there are loads of them on the internet. The one that I've put up here by Scott Thornbury, who's very well known in English language teaching, and his blog covers all sorts of things to do with teaching. And there are many, many others. Then there's webinars. And they have increased hugely with COVID in particular. Cambridge run them. International House run them. In fact, this week, I'm attending a webinar run by International House. And I think it's next week, it's in the next few weeks. I'm attending one run by Cambridge. And there was also a recent one a few weeks ago. So they're quite regular webinars now and can be very, very informative and tend to be very topical. Okay, that's that. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube, especially teachers. You might find the quality variable, but you'll find plenty of it there. Again, on teaching all kinds of things. For example, teaching pronunciation, teaching grammar, all sorts of things. There are podcasts. They are two of them that I myself actually do belong to them, both of them. And again, you can find all sorts of things, and you can on these two, all sorts of areas to do with teaching English. There is sure to be something that any of you will find interesting. You can read research, and you don't always have to pay for it. Again, you can check out these things by authors or by topic. And again, Google is your friend with things like that, with anything searching, isn't it? Then there are groups. And quite commonly, on Facebook, for example, as I said at the beginning, my work involves CELTA training. There are Facebook groups. Well, there's one particular one that I'm in, and Twitter as well, Instagram, other things. There may well be Facebook groups for any area of teaching that you are particularly involved in or interested in. So again, that's something to check out. And people often get a lot out of these groups because they're like-minded professionals often with the same kinds of problems, the same kind of issues that they want to talk about. And they can be really great. Okay, so a host of different areas online that you can use to develop from. Loads and loads of them. But we need to be careful. Because as with anything else, there's a lot of rubbish on the internet, a lot. And that's certainly true of English language teaching resources. And a problem that I have sometimes with teacher training is that trainees, they occasionally go straight to the internet for materials, for example, and choose something that is inappropriate for all sorts of reasons. So we need to think about the internet to make sure that we're looking in the right places. So what to do then? This is the main thing. If you go to sources like ones that I've given you, like publishers, like Oxford or Cambridge University Press, for example, Macmillan, Longman, and others, organisations such as the British Council, International House, and authors who are well known and respected in their fields. I mentioned Scott Thornbury and Joe Gakonga earlier. These will make sure that you are in the right place and in the right direction. That doesn't mean that they're no good if they're by people that aren't well known. We just need to be careful. Indeed, you know, with the British Council, for example, or International House, you may not have heard of the individuals who've published whatever it is, or the authors, but if they're under the umbrella of respected organisations, then they should be safe. Okay. Let's move on now then from online to colleagues. What can we learn from colleagues? And this is something that hasn't changed so much over the years. And they can be a fantastic source, colleagues. Observing their classes, observing your colleagues' classes is great. Peer observation is a fantastic way to learn. And because it's peer observation and there's no seniority involved and things like that, it's very unthreatening compared with what they can be like. And these observations, they don't have to be face-to-face. Online is okay, it's fine. There's a lot of teaching is these days. So thoroughly recommended peer observation. Just make sure if you do that, that you conduct some feedback with each other, the teacher and the observer following that, as to what you learn, because you can both learn, you know, the one who's teaching and the one who's watching. I'm based in Indonesia, and there's a teachers association here called TEFLIN. And just about any country that I know of has one or more teachers associations. They may be worth joining. And these associations, they often have get-togethers of some kind. Annual meetings, other meetings sometimes, workshops, that kind of thing. There's an international one called IATEFL, and you can join them. They're not cheap. They do have quite a lot going for them, including quite a lot of special interest groups that are involved in specific areas of teaching. Okay. So there we are from colleagues. Next up. What can we learn from our own classrooms? Right, yeah, the term action research, it does perhaps sound a bit posh, but it isn't really. All we're talking about is reflecting on your lessons, reflecting on your teaching, reflecting on the candidates' learning, the learners' learning. And on courses that I work on, like the CELTA course, this is a mandatory part of the course. The course is owned by Cambridge, so we have to follow a lot of their requirements. There are many things that they require. And one of them is that candidates have to show that they can reflect on their lessons and that they can learn from those reflections. Outside of courses like that, it probably isn't mandatory. But it's a very, very useful thing to do. And it doesn't have to be in writing or anything. And it doesn't have to take very long either. But just spend, and if you don't do it, try it. Just take a few minutes after each lesson, or if you haven't got time between lessons, after the lessons are finished, to just reflect a little bit and consider, think about, how did the lesson go? Did it go well? If it did, what made it go well? What did you do or the learners do to make it go well? Did it go badly? And some lessons will. Okay, why was that? Why do you think it was? And in particular, what could you do another time if you're teaching the same lesson so that it goes better? How could you change it? Okay. Very simple. This is really important too. In your teaching, don't do the same thing the same way every time. Apart from anything, you'll probably get bored, as will the students. Try doing something in a different way. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't work, that's all right. Because you can learn from that and will. How you start a lesson, for example. Don't start every lesson in the same way. It's boring, very boring for learners. Try something different. And also, if it doesn't work, that doesn't mean to say that it will never work. I'm sure you've had experiences, I know I have, of I've done a lesson with a class and the lesson's been great, or seemed to be great anyway. I've done the same lesson with another class and it's not been great at all. Because, every class is unique. The same lesson won't work every time with every class. So try things out. Okay, in the same area now from your work, lots of things that you can do. Change your job. Different levels of learners, teaching very low level and very high level, totally different. And several examples here that I've given. Again, the same thing all the time. It's going to be boring and you're probably not going to learn that much from it. You'll learn a lot more by change, because that's what development is all about. It's about change. Some people are skillful at that. Possibility to try. Talks or workshops, and you don't have to be an expert to do a workshop. You don't. In fact, doing one can help you become one. Right, let's have a look at this then. And this Inspire model, this was developed particularly for institutionalized professional development programs. And I've been talking so far about individual professional development. I don't know about your institution, possibly they have something in place. And this is one that works quite well, the Inspire model, and it's quite systematic. Let's have a look at it. And these principles, they're all pretty well grounded in research. Okay, so that there is evidence on which they're based. All right. So Inspire, so the IM, or the in, that's the first thing. That they need to have an impact to work. They need to be able to affect changes, because that's the main purpose of it. And those changes, as I said earlier, they will help the learning. So, as it says here, a program to be effective, it works on the strengths of the teacher, not the weaknesses. And works on them, that will help see what to change. And it'll be different for different teachers. So the program, it needs to address that. So the program will be different for different teachers and possibly for different learners as well. Needs to be needs-based. Right, so following on from what I just said. Crucially, as the teacher needs to be involved. It's not helpful for management, for example, to construct a CPD program and goals and then tell the teacher what they are. The teacher should be involved in that. And things to consider. So the context, and they're going to be different in Hong Kong, Malaysia, Switzerland, America, wherever. A program needs to consider the institution as well. I said about needs to consider the teacher, but also the institution. And finally, this. Okay, so several things that need to be considered in drawing up the CPD program. And in doing so, we're talking about research evidence and adapting that to the local context, and then looking at what works in it and for the people. And yeah, to get teachers on board, if it relates to them and it relates to their experience, their environment, you've got a good chance that the teachers will want to be part of it. Because if they're not part of it, then it's probably not going to work. So yeah, finally, the more that the teacher is involved, then the more successful the whole thing's likely to be. Okay, I'm looking at the time and I'm just coming out of time, I think. How long do I have, Jason?
Yeah.
Huh? Okay.
5 more.
5. Okay, no problem. All right, sustained. Okay. It's not a short-term thing, professional development. And a program's not a short-term thing. So it needs to be over a period of time to have the impact that it's designed for. Teachers need time, especially if it's something new. Okay, let's look at peer collaborative. So yeah, feedback is essential. And I say colleagues and experts, and that could mean management as well, is essential so that we know where we're going on both sides. And some things here like peer coaching can be really, really useful for developing skills, developing teaching skills, teaching techniques, and also developing ability to reflect, which is so, so important. Okay. So in practice, so it needs to be practical. Any development program needs to be practical, because that's what it's about in the end. It's about teaching. And the last bit there, yeah. Teachers need to try out things and see how they work. And that will help change attitudes. That will lead to changes. It's not very helpful to ask teachers to change their attitudes first. Not at all helpful. So reflective is bringing this together, basically, what I've been saying. And with this, and I know it's happened with me, that reflection and trying things out, it's changed my beliefs in many ways about how things happen, how learners do this, how they do that. And finally, evaluated. A program needs to be evaluated. It needs, and as teachers, we need to get into the minds of our learners, to see things from our learners' point of view, to understand that something that we're teaching that appears simple is not simple. It only appears to be simple because we're seeing it from our point of view. We know it, we understand it. So yeah, feedback, welcome it. Welcome it. It might not be what you want to hear sometimes. That's okay. It doesn't matter. It's useful. You may decide with some of it, no, I'm not going to do that. Okay. At least it makes you think about it. So yeah, and here we come pretty well full circle with individuals and institutions. If we can diagnose this, what's worked and what's not worked, then we can work on that. What's not worked? Why has it not worked? What can we do about it? And do it, what we can do about it. So there we are. There's the INSPIRE model that basically follows what else I've been talking about. Okay. Okay, so there we are. And as I said, try out new things. Try out some of the things from this session. And continue to develop, and all the very best of luck with that.
Thank you, Rob, for such a wonderful sharing. It's always been a pleasure to be able to listen to you. And, you know, prior to your session today, I've always thought of continuous professional development as a course, something that, you know, teachers need to enroll into in order to further develop themselves. But hearing you today, I believe a lot of teachers, they now have more ideas about how they can further develop themselves. It can be something as easy as reflecting on their own work and to observe their peers while they're teaching and stuff. And really thank you for opening up our eyes on that. And also the INSPIRE model that you have shared, we do have a research paper on that. So for every participants here, we'll be sharing that through our Telegram channel so you can have a deeper look. And this is especially true for institutions if you're looking for ways to develop your teachers.